It's probably the biggest question we could ever ask ourselves. Where did all of, well, us come from? I mean, how do you get the incredible, complex symphony of life from a universe that started out as just simple, non-living stuff? It feels impossible, right? Almost like magic. But it turns out the answer is an incredible story of chemistry, information, and, believe it or not, order just bubbling up out of chaos. All right, let's get into it.
So this is it. This is the central mystery we're going to try and unpack. It's a question that's kept philosophers and scientists up at night for, well, forever. How do you possibly get from a rock to a rose? How do you cross that massive, seemingly unbridgeable gap between something that isn't alive and something that is?
Well, the very first thing we have to do is throw out a bad assumption. Because it turns out that sharp dividing line, it doesn't really exist. Life isn't an on or off switch. It's more like a dimmer. It's a continuous spectrum, a gradual ramp up in complexity. You start with these simple chemical chains, little polymers, and they slowly build up through things like RNA and viruses, all the way to bacteria, and eventually, us. It's a process, not a single event.
Okay, so if it's a journey, a spectrum, where does that journey begin? For that, we've got to go way back to the chaotic, primordial soup of early Earth to find that first spark, the moment when the basic ingredients for life were first cooked up. And what's so amazing is that we found that life's building blocks, they're not some rare, miraculous thing. Back in 1952, this famous Miller-Urey experiment basically recreated the atmosphere of early Earth in a flask. Water, methane, ammonia. They zapped it with some sparks to act like lightning, and boom. Just like that, they had created amino acids. The fundamental stuff of proteins, the literal building blocks of you and me, they just formed all by themselves. The ingredients, it turns out, are everywhere.
Okay, so we've got the ingredients. The raw materials are there. But, a pile of Lego bricks isn't a starship, right? You need instructions. You need a blueprint to tell all those little pieces how to fit together.
And for every living thing on this planet, that blueprint is DNA. It's basically a code written with a super simple four-letter alphabet, A, T, C, and G. That's it, just those four chemical bases, pairing up in a beautiful double helix, write the instructions for absolutely everything. It's the universal operating system for all life on Earth. But here's where things get really wild. What if that operating system could be upgraded? Get this. Scientists, led by a guy named Stephen Benner, have actually created a totally synthetic DNA. They call it Hachimoji, that uses an 8-letter alphabet. 8 letters. And the craziest part? It works perfectly. It stores information and replicates just like our natural DNA does.
So what that means is absolutely mind-bending. The 4 letters our entire biology is based on. That might have just been a historical accident. Just one way to do it that happened to work. The fundamental rules for writing the code of life are way more flexible than we ever dreamed. And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for medicine, for insane data storage, and even for how we search for life on other planets.
All right, so we've got our ingredients. We have a set of instructions, a surprisingly flexible one at that. But there's a third super critical piece to this puzzle. How does the whole system turn itself on? And more importantly, how does it keep itself going? How does it become self-sustaining?
The answer is a concept called autocatalytic sets. Now I know, that sounds super technical, but don't worry, the idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine a chemical community where everybody helps everybody else. Molecule A helps create molecule B, and molecule B, in turn, helps create molecule A. They create this closed loop, a self-sustaining network that just keeps itself running.
And this is basically what it looks like. Nobel laureate Manfred Eigen came up with this hypercycle model. It's just a simple, elegant feedback loop. Once this little chemical engine gets going, it can run all on its own. It's like a tiny, miniature metabolism kicking into gear.
And check it out, this isn't just a theory. We've seen it happen with the discovery of things called ribozymes. A ribozyme is just an RNA molecule, DNA's close cousin, but it can also act as a catalyst, something that speeds up chemical reactions. Then, in 2012, experiments proved that these ribozymes can form the exact same autocatalytic sets we were just talking about. This is huge. It means that early on, RNA could have been both the instructions and the engine, solving a massive chicken and egg problem for the origin of life.
So there you have it, the 3 key pieces of the puzzle. Life isn't some single, magical lightning strike. It's what happens when these 3 things come together. You need the abundant chemical ingredients,
you need a coded set of instructions, and you need a self-sustaining engine to run the whole show. When you get all three of those things in one place, life stops looking like a miracle and starts to look, well, almost inevitable.
And that forces us to think about things in a totally new way. For a long time, science was all about reductionism, taking things apart to see how they work. But when you do that, you can miss the big picture. The Nobel Prize winner Ilya Prigozhin showed that in systems that have energy constantly flowing through them, like say the early Earth with the sun beating down on it, order doesn't just happen randomly. It's expected. Complexity and order are natural outcomes. Life in all its glory isn't some weird exception to the laws of physics. It might just be the most profound expression of them.
So this new way of seeing life as a system that emerges naturally doesn't just answer old questions. Oh no, it blows the doors wide open to a whole new universe of questions that really push the limits of physics and even philosophy.
Okay, prepare to have your mind bent a little. We all know Einstein's famous E=mc², right? Mass and energy are two sides of the same coin. Well, what if there's a third piece to that puzzle? Information. There's a theory of mass-energy information equivalence that suggests information itself has physical mass. So a full hard drive literally, physically, weighs more than an empty one. That means the information coded in your DNA isn't just some abstract idea, it's a real, physical part of the universe.
But just when we feel like we're about to figure it all out, we slam into a wall, a hard limit. The mathematician Kurt Gödel proved that any complex system, whether it's math or our own universe, can never be fully understood or defined using only the rules from inside that system. It's like trying to see what your house looks like from the outside while you're still locked in the basement. You can't do it. You will always be missing a piece of the puzzle.
So when we talk about big ideas like the simulation hypothesis, what does Gödel's theorem mean? Well, it suggests there's a fundamental limit to our knowledge. If we really are inside the system, we can never get that outside perspective we'd need to prove it one way or the other. And maybe that's not a bad thing. It leaves us with this beautiful, kind of humbling thought. The search for answers isn't about reaching some final finish line. It's an endless, fascinating journey, with brand new frontiers of what we know and what we don't, always waiting just over the horizon.